live from the Unmuted Newsroom. This is Black Headlines by Black Alerts.
Good evening.
Welcome to Black.
Oh.
Hey.
Greetings.
I'm Alex Hayes.
I'm Tiffany Linnell.
Listen, I don't remember that what movie that was, but it's like, why do we rehearse?
Wasn't that Devil Wears Prada? No. That was Why Is No One Ready?
Why do we rehearse? I want to put it on Sister Act, but that's not it.
I don't remember either, but I do know what you're talking about, and that was totally on me. My bad.
Doesn't matter. It's time for prime time. Hello, Tiff.
Hello, Alex.
How goes it?
It goes. Another day, another dollar, another news day.
So it's like the news doesn't stop.
It doesn't. It just doesn't.
And you know, as we work through each day, because everything's breaking news, which everything is not breaking news.
Right.
We're all exhausted because it's like, what now? Like, what now again? So
yes.
Yeah.
Every time something does break or anything at this point, I'm just like, add it to the list. Okay. Add it to the list because I just can't.
Today.
Today. And probably not tomorrow. Just no. And that's it. That's all.
And it's just like right that at this moment, we bring you breaking news.
Because it never ends.
Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, has been indicted.
The first sitting New York mayor to face criminal charges. He just said in a statement today, I always knew that if I stood my ground for New Yorkers, that I would be a target, and a target I became. If I am charged, I am innocent, and I will fight this with every ounce of my strength and spirit. And now here we are. Okay, that's a lot. So it looks like the indictment is sealed. We don't know when it will be unsealed, but it's at least one federal criminal charge that has to do with his essentially dealings with the Turkish government, which is awfully coincidental because, of course, the UN Assembly is happening right now. President Zelensky spoke earlier today, but the Turkish government, I think the Turkish representative is supposed to speak tomorrow. So
we just went through here in New York City the entire Adams administration resigning this week. I say entire, I'm a little dramatic, but circulating breaking news here in New York City all week. We know that the chancellor of New York public schools announced that he would be retiring at the end of the year, but that's essentially a resignation that came.
You did tell me y'all had some folks resign.
And it's been like back to back to back to back to back. And you know, when things start to shake, you start to wonder. I've seen trending in some spaces, you know, when is he finally going to do so?
Right.
City and State New York .com is a website that kind of tracks happenings that happen within the city. What we know so far who has left the Adams administration is, as I mentioned, Schools Chancellor David Banks. He was Adams' first deputy mayor, and
That's interesting.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's me misquoting because it's very similar. Okay. Banks, the school's chancellor, his partner is first deputy mayor, and his brother is deputy mayor for public safety. His other brother is linked to a company that won a lucrative DOE contract earlier this month. All four, including the chancellor, were raided or had devices seized by federal agents amid sprawling probes into members of the mayor's inner circle. No one has been accused of wrongdoing and no charges have been filed. Now, the raid on the personal devices, mobile devices, that also happened with the NYPD commissioner, Edward Caban. And that news, when they said they raided his home, it made me pay attention. So police commissioner Edward Caban was also visited by federal authorities in the September suites, and just over a week later, on September 12th, stepped down as the city's top cop after a little over a year on the job. Multiple outlets have reported that Caban faced pressure to step down from City Hall, which Adams denied. Caban's resignation is one of the only recent ones to explicitly reference the distraction of the federal scrutiny. His resignation letter said, "The news around recent developments has created a distraction for our department, and I am unwilling to let my attention be on anything other than our important work and the safety of the men and women of the NYPD." Now, Caban's twin brother, James, also had his phone seized by the feds, who are reportedly looking into whether he profited in his consulting business from his connection to his brother. Edward Caban was appointed police commissioner in July 2023, and he replaced Keyshawn Sewell, who was the first Black Dominican woman police commissioner. So it was big. She came in with Adams, so her appointment, but when she left, it was sudden. And the replacement of Edward Caban did make heads turn. Chief Counsel Lisa Zornberg. Adams has characterized these. Well, let me get to Lisa, and I'll talk about what Adams has said. City Hall Chief Counsel Lisa Zornberg's abrupt resignation, which was announced by City Hall to only a handful of media outlets on a late Saturday night. Zornberg's resignation letter on September 14th stated that she had concluded that I can no longer effectively serve in my position. Adams declined to comment on conversations he had with Zornberg leading up to her resignation, and she's also declined to comment on reports. Now, Zornberg was appointed in July 2023. You notice a lot of July 2023 appointments.
I'm noticing that and something else.
First Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh, the FDNY's first ever woman commissioner, announced she was calling it quits on July 13th after a decade with the department. In a Medium post, she said she decided she needed to spend more time with her family, and she left the department on August 7th. Some of the rest of these kind of go back into 2022. Keyshawn Sewell, Eric Ulrich, who was the Department of Buildings commissioner, also left. But in recent days, we've mostly been talking about within the city, Chief Counsel Lisa Zornberg, Police Commissioner Edward Caban. I'm sorry, I missed one. We talked about him briefly yesterday. It didn't make it to headlines because it wasn't a headline. Health Commissioner Ashwin Vasan. On September 23rd, Health Commissioner Dr. Ashwin Vasan announced he would step down by January 2025, saying he needs to spend more time with his family. Vasan served as city health commissioner beginning in early 2022 at the start of Adams' tenure, and helped the city navigate the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic. and through an outbreak of the monkeypox virus. Now, this is not the same embattled health commissioner that was also there during COVID-19 that started working at another pharmaceutical company that lost his job as well yesterday for admitting on tape that he held wild sex parties during COVID. So I do not want to conflict these commissioners.
Y'all are having a time up there.
There's just a lot going on, but we can't confirm for you breaking news tonight, moments ago. Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, has been indicted. The indictment is sealed. I know you have more details on the legal happenings of what's happening. I don't even know if that's the right way to say that, but this is just a very bizarre.
Good enough. It is very bizarre. And that's why when I was listening to you of all of the personal devices and everything that they're searching, I'm like, I'm missing something here. Because the investigation that led to this indictment, as I mentioned, has focused on what the dealings have been with the Turkish government. So the investigation started during his 2021, during Mayor Eric Adams' 2021 mayoral campaign, and they were investigating if he conspired with the Turkish government to get illegal foreign donations in exchange for pressing the fire department to approve a high-rise Turkish consulate in Midtown, despite there being safety concerns. So the FBI agents searched his home, searched the home of his chief fundraiser, who was a liaison to the Turkish government and community, and a former Turkish Airlines executive who was on his transition committee. So again, I think it's maybe not coincidental, but maybe coincidental that I believe the Turkish government is supposed to speak at the UN Assembly tomorrow, the UN General Assembly. So they're saying that maybe the indictment will be unsealed during the time that Turkish president will be in town. But I'm missing something. So I'll be very curious when the indictment is unsealed and we can dig into it and read it more, because what's happening?
Right. We're unable to confirm anything else about the indictment. We do know that the mayor has not been arrested. And I'll say that, I know how things, I know how people in positions of power are often attacked, and they can also use that. They use that to deflect when they are correct. So you got to be careful with that. But there's something about, and again, we don't know what's going on. I am a apologist for no one. I will spar with any mayor. I don't give a damn. That said, okay, I'm gonna talk about power dynamics at another time. I'm just gonna say that one thing that caused me to hone in on this a little bit is when you hear that the police commissioner's house was raided and then they just took his devices. It makes you wonder, so my head was there. You always, if you hear, someone that high, you hear about a raid of that caliber, you're going to wonder what's going on, and you're going to wonder, what's happening. So obviously there's a lot of things going on. We're scouring, trying to get the latest reports, but we'll summarize this. Check blackalerts.com for the latest updates.
Yep. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. But we have quite a bit to cover today. You were telling me about Bernie Moreno, and
I guess we can start there. Okay, let's just start there. And the fact that we're saying his name when he's a no name, you look this man up, he's not a politician yet. He's trying really hard, but the blueprint that he's using. But think, two scenarios or two truths here. The fish rots from the head, And bad in, bad out. You got bad at the top, you're gonna have bad candidates. You're gonna have bad actors wanting to be candidates. You're gonna have people posturing and doing what they can to be the most outrageous. There was a candidate that ran recently for a position on the West Coast, and she ran with using like inflammatory sexual slurs. She lost badly.
She should have.
But she's one example. This guy, and here's the thing. I'm the first to say that men have no business making policy. Like speaking on women is wild, but creating policy, laws, and structure for after we've been there already. We did that already. Like for most of the time that people inhabited this planet in some form in organized civil modernized, colonized cultures, this has been a norm. It's a constant. So it's not shocking that it's coming from the people that had those culture. That's not shocking that this is where they default when they don't know what to do next. They don't know how to manage anything that does not look like them. But the control factor is insane. And I know that you hadn't seen it when I first mentioned this to you.
I had not.
But Bernie Moreno is actually running for the U.S. Senate. He is a U.S. Senate candidate. The shocker for me, and I think we talked about this, didn't we? That's not him. He kind of no, he doesn't look like them. That's him. The shocking thing for me about him is that he's actually from Colombia. Like technically you are brown. I see the Paul Ryan that you're going for. I see it. The little cut, like he's cut like he used to play baseball in the 70s, you know? He looks like Bogota, Colombia.
He's from Bogota?
I didn't you missed that?
Yeah, I missed
Bogota.
that.
He was born there, went to the University of Michigan. So he came here and was afforded opportunities and doors. Not only did women open the doors for him holistically, I don't even care how he got here.
He looks like he's from Westerville, Ohio.
And played baseball in the 70s.
Okay, let's just get to what he said because that just pissed me off a little bit more.
I'm just looking. It's so sad.
I don't want to look at that
Be
anymore.
this way. It doesn't have. So he opened his mouth to speak on women over 50 that were voicing their concerns on abortion. This is U.S. Senate candidate Bernie Moreno, in his own words, earlier this week. Bernie? Okay, well, I don't see Bernie. Bernie, okay. While we get Bernie, the thing about Bernie is he was speaking to a crowd. When you're running for Senate, you dealt with this recently. You had a wild person running for the U.S. Senate.
We did.
That was in your state not too long ago.
And
so posturing is an understatement of what these people do. Like
I want to use another word there. We had an ill person because I absolutely believe that Herschel Walker is ill and we just don't know it yet. And so that
are you saying the CTE?
Yes.
Probably so.
I absolutely believe he has CTE. And I really do hope that sometime soon, it sounds like they're working on it, that they can diagnose that before before
Doesn't
people
matter.
died.
Like he was exhibiting the symptoms of somebody that has it, even though it's undiagnosable. And
Yeah.
they chose him to run for U.S. Senate to represent one of the 50 states in the union. That's what they decided to do.
I mean, but these
And
are the same
I
people
just,
who
for the
decided
life
to
of
have
me,
Trump as their running mate again. And now Republicans are leaving the party
after
in
he
blood.
literally took the entire country and drug it to the ground.
Yeah.
Below the ground, essentially. I think we have
Yeah.
Bernie, and this is what he had to say to a group of supporters. The people that he was talking to were there in support of him, and he felt the liberty to say this with his whole mouth in his own words. Bernie.
Sadly, by the way, there's a lot of suburban women. A lot of suburban women that are like, listen, abortion's it. If I can't have an abortion in this country whenever I want, I will vote for anybody else. Okay, a little crazy, by the way, but especially for women that are like past 50, I'm thinking to myself, that's an issue for you. Oh, thank God my wife didn't hear that one.
So the thing is, for me, Tiff, he took the liberty to say it. He meant it. Like, he stood by it. He said it. He felt it. They laughed. There were women laughing. So for someone that's uneducated, or undecided on their thoughts on abortion because it's not something they've ever encountered or had to face, and they don't understand why these comments would be problematic, what would you say to that person?
Without cussing,
No, I didn't say without cussing. You said that. I said, what would you say to that person?
I think that one of the main things that I like to discuss when we're talking about reproductive access and healthcare access, equitable healthcare access, is you don't get to decide whether I am 30, 40, 50, or 60. You, the government, do not get to decide what I can and cannot do with my body. And there are many women who are beyond the age of 50 who are reclaiming the ability to get pregnant and conceive at any age that we want, and also are trying to get rid of this terminology of a geriatric pregnancy as well. So I would start with, one, the government doesn't get to decide what I do with my body at any age, or they shouldn't be able to get to decide what I do with my body at any age, including abortion or not. Also, we had 2 women die in the state of Georgia over the last couple of weeks that were preventable deaths, simply because there's no abortion access and the exceptions are a bit fuzzy here, and the healthcare providers are, scared to perform abortions and all of this. We had 2 women die in this state and they were preventable. And so I think when it comes to this conversation, for me, it's none of your business what I do with my body, but also this is now
Whether you want to get
causing,
pregnant or not, that
whether
has
you want to
nothing
get
to do
pregnant
with you.
or not, that is my choice as a birth giving person, as a woman. That is my choice. But also there are real impacts to your talking points or to your flippant comments at a conference or at an event. There are real lives on the line. And I just want people to understand, when you are talking about this and making these policy decisions and making these flippant comments about, it's a little crazy, by the way, especially if you're over the age of 50, it's not really an issue for you. You don't get to make that decision. You don't get to say that. That is offensive to any woman over the age of 50 who has given birth or has decided to have kids. And you also don't get to say that and disregard the lives that have been lost, the folks who are trying to make difficult decisions right now, the folks who are traveling 1, 2, 3, and 4 hours trying to find the healthcare that they need. You just don't get to do that. It's offensive and it's disregarding at best.
Agreed. And I really wanted to know your opinion on it because it's the one that matters. My only comment there is that like men would never be okay with someone saying what they could do with their penis. Like just not happening.
Right.
Not okay
Right.
with it. Not
Right.
happening. And you're
And
like,
that's
well, why would someone ever do that? Exactly.
because
Exactly.
patriarchy. But we can start there. That's a huge portion of the conversation.
Yeah, it will never end.
It would never end. So, Bobby, Bernie, go have a seat.
I hope you lose badly, Bernie. I do hope that.
Yeah.
I think that when you choose to go in the service of people, to think that somebody, I'm not paying taxes in Ohio, but I would never want but I am paying taxes to the United States. So in some way or shape or form, you're not somebody. I hope that you lose badly. I hope that whoever's running against you, Bernie Moreno, I hope that they do a wonderful job. I hope that it is a sweep. Because to think that you would go, because I feel like this is like in their DNA. There's something about grifters because his when you search him, doesn't, like I said, he's not a politician. It says American businessman.
Right.
That is so general. Like that is like saying I'm going to school to get a degree in business. Okay.
He's running against Sherrod Brown, and they are actually neck and neck in the polls right now in Ohio. So we'll see. I have a lot of family
And I
in Ohio, so we'll see.
I like Senator Brown. I do.
I like.
So
Senator
I really hope
Brown.
I hope he wipes the floor with you. I do. I hope
Mops the floor with you. I really do. And from what I can tell from my family, they enjoy him enough. So, yeah, that's
fair
outrageous.
enough. That's what's happening in. Well, that's not all that's happening in Ohio. Clearly, you're aware of that. And I think that leads us right into something else that has been happening in Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, where a number of legal Haitian migrants have been living legally on a temporary status because of what's happening in their country. If you've been under a rock, I don't know how, because you probably missed the debate. Only about 67 million. Yeah, you missed the debate, but you know one of the songs. You know the song without a beat. You know the song a cappella. You know the hip hop version of the song. You know the acoustic version of the song. I'm sure there's probably an EDM version. Soon there will be a house version. They'll be playing it in Express while they're folding the clothes. They're eating the dogs, eating the cats, eating the dogs. Like what? That was the former president of the United States of America. Now, when you look at the lineage of the presidents and we go from white wigs just to like colored hair and then a colored person, in their words. And then a man that said they're eating the dogs and eating the cats in reference to human beings. And I say that because this country does its best to lift itself above the world as a model and a beacon of light and hope for the world. And dually, they lift up this ass clown, this orange ass clown that eats Big Macs, lies constantly, couldn't tell, it doesn't know the difference between the two, and visibly has dementia.
Alex, we can't say that for sure.
I said visibly. I didn't say that I had the diagnosis. And I just, that's for that type of person to be held up as a shining example. I come from a time where people wanted their kids to be like the president. I haven't heard a parent say that in the last decade.
No. Well, the group.
But if you know
is-
anything about the people that he's attacked, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the group that is bringing charges to Trump
Same
and
vein.
and, and Vance. Um, the Haitian Bridge Alliance has filed charges for disrupting public services, making false alarms, telecommunications harassment, aggravated menacing, and complicity. That was filed in the Clark County Municipal Court to they want them essentially to affirm that there's probable cause and issue arrest warrants against Trump and Vance. Now, private citizens bringing forth a case is rare, but it's not unheard of. Um, but essentially, they made this move after their local prosecutor hadn't made any. I mean, he has been, to your point, there are songs about it. And he, even after the debate, when he said they're
He's a
eating
flagrant
cats,
racist. Like the end.
it's flagrant
Flagrant racist. He is
racism
a flagrant
and
racist.
disinformation. And to what you said,
Just
there are between
the worst.
15,000 and 20,000 Haitian immigrants who have immigrated to Springfield, Ohio. They are there legally after being recruited for local jobs and have been granted temporary protected status to be here legally. And they're not eating cats. Multiple local officials in Springfield, Ohio, and in the county and municipal areas have come out against what Trump said, including Republican officials in the state of Ohio saying this just isn't true. Any of the photos or videos that have gone viral, there was one of a man carrying a bird that had been killed in the street, and he was like taking it to where it needed to go. There was another that a woman posted, and she was like, "This was not supposed to go viral. That's not what's happening." So, like, all of his lies have been dispelled, yet he continues to get on stage after stage after stage and repeat this disinformation and these lies. So, I say good for the Haitian Bridge Alliance group for even making an
And
effort.
I was, but before you covered that so eloquently, I was going to say that if you know anything about these people, which a lot of people, because of this has nothing to do with misinformation or disinformation. This has to do with poor education about the rest of the world. And you can't deny that when you print maps and make this country bigger than it really is. That is insane. But if you know anything about Haiti, you probably don't. You know what this country has said about people from there, probably things like voodoo, and you associate that with those people. Unless you've been exposed to them, there's no way that you would know, because it's not part of the curriculum. It's not, you don't know, nothing about the independence of a Black nation.
Right.
So to think that these people were going to come over here and let you push them over, run over them, and you are using this so that people can be inflamed about the drug cartels that are coming into the border by droves, and you're using this to wedge and create an issue when there was not an issue there. If you're outside and you see an issue and you're like, I'm outside your house, Tiff, and I say, well, I think that you've got a problem in your house. You're like, you don't know anything about my house. You may have been to my house. You know nothing about my house.
Nothing.
But I think you have a problem in your house. And in fact, I'm going to tell everybody that you have a problem in your house. And I'm going to say that she is in there eating dogs and cats. Now why am I in it? Such a simple analogy. You're in there minding your damn business. And I'm outside, and people are outside with pitchforks ready to burn down your trees and turn your house, melt it down so they can throw it into your lake.
Right. No, and I think that's a perfect analogy. And really the truth of the matter is, and I know you said this isn't about misinformation or disinformation, it's about education. And I agree with that, but I still say it is misinformation and disinformation because the lack of education about it is intentional. There is intent behind it. And I think where I say it is disinformation is because he knows he's lying.
What I was saying is, you not knowing about Haiti is not misinformation, disinformation. It's just poor education
Oh, yes,
and how we
yes.
are. But
And
all of
propaganda,
this,
though,
all
but
of
also
this,
propaganda.
all of this is based on misinformation, then intentionally
Yes.
sowing disinformation. When this vice presidential candidate here, when he was called by the city manager the day before,
Yes.
he went on the airwaves and said that, and then the ass hat next to him did it at the debate the next day.
Yes. Absolutely. That's absolutely what happened.
That makes no sense to me. It's insane.
Yes.
It's
When the truth of
insane.
the matter is, the United States has been actively had a hand in destabilizing the nation of Haiti since it gained its independence in 1804. After the revolution ended, that they began in 1791. So you have a country that uh, with a people who gained their independence from French colonization, had their debt sold, which is why they're in debt now. So we could talk about the capitalism of it. Had their debt sold, they are having to pay the debt back after gaining their own independence from the debt being paid where they were property essentially. And the US has had a hand in that. So not only is it a lack of education about what is happening, it's also a propaganda machine at work.
Yeah.
Because
And it's all
we don't talk
intentional.
about the Haitian Revolution.
It's all intentional.
It's all intentional.
And I say that it's important that if you don't know about it, Google Haiti freedom, Google Haiti versus France. Go ahead and do that.
Mhm.
And that'll get you started. That'll
Yes.
get you started.
Yeah. And then come to us with questions.
Yeah, because
If you
it's
have them.
crazy. You'd be surprised what my country, 'tis of thee, had its hand in.
And still does.
Thoughts and prayers out to the people that are being affected. I think I read over it was, and that's an earlier number, so I know it's much higher than that now. Over 4 million people directly impacted by Hurricane Helene, who has rapidly increased her speed. So she's upset about something. She's ravaging through the Gulf of Mexico right now and up the coastline of Florida. I know that evacuations have started in Florida. If you know people from that area, there may be trouble as power outages are in mass, as well as cell phone towers are down. So if you know people from that area, you will try your best to try to either see if they've made contact with someone. Just ensure your loved ones are okay.
Yeah, there's and while we're here, if you do not get your local text messages, newsletter, emails, whatever your county, city, or municipality offers, make sure you're getting those. Because I'm, of course, in Georgia, so I'm in the path of the storm. We're getting hit with another storm tonight, so we're like sandwiched between two storms right now. But if you don't get all of these emergency messages and things like that, look up what your city offers. My county has alerts. I got a text message and I got an email at the same time. My echoes have been going off in the house. It will probably go off again and say that the tropical storm warning, which is hitting us right now, has been extended. They keep extending it. So make sure that you have something. When we were growing up, it was you had to have an analog radio that you could take down into the basement or whatever with you to make sure you could turn to the emergency broadcast channel. I don't think that maybe that still exists. I don't know. But nowadays
it exists, but it's in use by the people that were using it. People that were born after 1994 have no idea what that is. They don't even know AM radio.
Oh.
So Yeah, they're
Oh,
not really not a thing, but you should be in tune to what's happening around you so that you
yes,
do not get caught in the midst of a literal storm that could kill
literally,
you. This
literally.
hurricane right now is tracking as a Cat 4. Now there are
Yeah,
only 5 categories. I
there
hate to
are.
be the one to tell you that too, because
There
I know
are.
that is news to a lot of
Yeah,
people right now. There are
yeah,
there are
yeah. That's winds
it-
for those who can't comprehend. They are anticipating winds above 110 miles per hour. So yeah, hide your kids, hide your wife.
and if you
The
haven't
wind is
done
coming.
so, I want you to know this is uh, 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 a picture from Tampa, Florida. Like,
Because folks stock up. You go to the stores, you get,
but you
I've
don't
seen,
need all of that for a storm, y'all. Come on now.
you don't. And
You know,
y'all
you
do
do
be doing
not.
a
Come
little bit
on now. You
extra.
don't not. You are not going through
No,
3 packs of 24 count toilet papers. You're not going through that. You
you're not
don't
doing
need
that.
that.
This is
You
not the
don't
end
even
of
drink
time.
water. You don't
Mhm.
even drink water.
This
But
is
now
not
you
the end of
want 4
time.
cases? Come on now. Come on. Let's be
I've
real.
seen a lot, and I'm sure part of it is my algorithm, but I've seen a lot of folks on threads, and I really only open threads at this point. But I've seen a lot of folks saying, "All right, Georgia folks, is this storm going to hit us?" And I'm like, "It's really a lot of new folks here. No, y'all chill. Like, yeah, it'll hit us a little bit, but we don't need to evacuate or anything like that. We're so unless you're on the coast, but even on the coast because of the path of the storm." It's actually going to hit Central and North Georgia more than it usually does. But like, y'all don't need 5 loaves of bread, 6 cans of vegetables, 4 cases of water. Y'all don't need all of that. It's not. It's just not. No. But get the alerts for your city or your county so that you can be aware of what is coming and what you do need to do and how you can best prepare and the resources that are available to you. And also, if you are a homeowner or a renter or anything like that, your insurance company should also be sending resources or have something on their website,
Absolutely.
hopefully. Because I also got an email from my insurance company saying, "We know you're in the path. Here's what you can do." So
You
make
should
sure you're
familiarize
up to
yourself with
date.
your policy and your company and not just call them when they raise your bill. You're
Yeah,
paying for some services that you could probably utilize, and that's, you know,
that's it. And and nowadays
free advice.
paying a lot,
Free
you're paying
advice.
a lot. So
Free
yes, agreed.
advice.
Yeah.
Um, let's hit this one. Jay-Z. Let's say this. Things are looking up for Hove.
Okay, that sounds
Um,
good.
Jay-Z has said that he is committing $15 million. Him and Rock Nation are committing $15 million to Hell's Kitchen if legislation passes for casinos to come to New York. So an investment, and I mean, casinos don't, the only person that has ever bankrupt a casino is Donald J. Trump. And
You can't make
I
this
don't,
up.
that he was not even a part of this story. He has nothing to do with
Oh my
it.
god!
But
But you can't make it
also,
up.
casinos don't go bankrupt.
No, they don't.
They don't go bankrupt.
I I, I just hate the accuracy of your statement. I really do. So they are
Because I
committing
said, like, okay,
more than $250 million in grant money. So, like, what am I reading this correctly?
yeah. So basically, Rock Nation will pledge a historic contribution to Hell's Kitchen if Caesar Palace's proposal for a new casino in the heart of New York City gets a green light. So he's committing to put $15 million into improvement projects for New York City if the bid is accepted. And the community will also receive grants based on half of percent of the casino's performance, which ain't nothing because casinos don't go bankrupt. And so if you're giving back the community, you want to come in here and bring gambling into this community. I don't have any thoughts on that.
Well, it looks like only 23% of the voters say that they favor opening a casino in Times Square, but 71% of registered voters in the area oppose the opening of the casino. And
unfortunately, that's never stopped New York City.
Well,
But
that's true.
it's great. That's great that the citizens are opposing it, and that's something I feel like, especially if it was coming to like a specific neighborhood. And I know that it seems like this is just one big tourist land, but people do live here, right? So when you come and you're trampling on and trashing it because you feel like it's a trashy place, like people live here. Don't do that,
right?
But
no, for real.
that said, you know, I there's pros and cons. I remember living in Atlanta and how many times this has been proposed through multiple mayors of bringing casinos to underground. Which, you know, which there are pros and cons, right? If you look at what it's done for Vegas, but that is the purpose of like why people go there. People move there.
Right.
Like you can't move to Vegas and say I can't find a job. You're a liar and a bum. You can't move here. This is another great place. Unless like there's some type of visa preventing you from working. I watch a lot of 90 Day Fiance.
Okay.
There's no reason that you would not be able to get a job here tonight.
Okay. So I agree. Now I will say I think it's interesting that the $250 million commitment is actually it's starting with an initial $15 million pledge to the local community, but then the rest of it, the regular grants, will be based on 0.5% of the casino's performance. That's a large.
If you're willing to give 0.5%, and I don't, you know, I'm not the numbers person, so I don't know on average, but I would imagine there's a Caesar's Palace in Atlantic City, which is not far from New York City, but it's a desolate place after Donald Trump ravished it and didn't pay the people. Anyway, there is a Caesar's Palace there. I don't think it does numbers anything like Vegas, you know. So if we were to say, let's say 0.5%, okay, 0.5% numbers, lady. Caesars Entertainment reported $11.53 billion in revenue worldwide in 2023.
You said 11.5 billion?
Billion.
Okay.
That is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. That's when you get to that billion. You need 3 cases of zeros, and then that 10th zero, that's the $1 billion number. So then you got to go, they didn't just get one of those, they got 11 of those. So they are probably doing all they can to get into the New York City market, because that 11.3 billion could easily become 16.5.
Yeah, especially in Times Square. If tourists could go to Times Square, first of all, I already hate Times Square.
That 0.5% is
about
over that initial 15 million. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's about 57.5.
So if you say 0.5%, you're like, oh, they're really cheap, but $57 million is going to revitalize any neighborhood in the nation.
Yeah, it has the potential to.
It's going to contribute to. Yeah, I mean, potentially.
I already don't like Times Square, but I recognize I am not the average New
I
York
never
vet.
go there.
I
But
don't I
I don't
don't
even
go
gamble like that. So
I also don't gamble. I come to New York so much. I'm not doing all the tourist stuff like that.
you know
New
what we
York is like
should
my
do?
second home. I'm not
I
doing
know
all of that.
St. Louis is on your bucket list.
Bucket list
We
is
can go down to the boat.
reach.
We should gamble in St. Louis. I've never done that. I watch my relatives do that. Like, oh, your grandma going down to the boat. What?
I'm like, so
But
we need to go with Granny.
not that one. I don't know.
Okay.
She probably has been down to the boat, but she probably rather go to Vegas. Like there are people like
Okay.
but I don't know what the gambling scene in St. Louis is like. I know that I can think of like a few casinos, but when I was growing up, there used to be this huge boat. We had a picture of it too. And I'm like, damn, when I get old, I'm old now. I should have been there, but I don't know if that boat is still there. I need to ask
I mean,
somebody.
the next time we go to St. Louis, we can check. But I'm down. They have not brought a casino to the city of Atlanta yet, and from what I understand, the next plans, because the Underground Atlanta has had many plans, but the current plans include high rises, not a casino. So I don't know that that's going to happen
How
here
things
either.
modernized. They are calling that boat that was once called Casino Queen, Draft Kings. And the only thing I know about
Oh my
Draft Kings
God.
is commercials.
Yeah, that's all I know about them. Too. Okay, next topic, because
Let's move on.
yeah,
Well, I guess we got to go here. This will be what a time to be alive, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. If you are not familiar, and a lot of people aren't, right? For some reason or another, people have, I don't think it's a bias against 50 Cent. There is a thing. I'm going to preface this with this discussion because it's a relevant discussion about us as a people. There was a conversation on the news network, and they were just talking about the narrative of like, there are increasing numbers of Black support for Donald Trump. Now, it's ludicrous to think that Black people are going to vote the same way forever. Like,
right,
who the hell do you think you are to tell Black people they must do that? But
right,
also them slipping, 6 to 7%, if it's that. The highest estimates I've seen, 10%, which is highly unlikely. Exit polls, like this has been predicted so many years, and it's all election years, and it's always a misnomer.
right,
But they were saying, it's been fueled by Republicans. But no, they were like in the dark corners of some Black barbershops. There is question about like, should I vote for Kamala Harris? Is she really Black? And the Janet Jackson thing not being as so. Those people, there was pushback, and they're like, no, I don't know if. Yeah, that's happening. We can talk about it. We know that happens. People, we know Hotep, and it's not even Hotep. Sometimes it's just uninformed. So when you have people like that, and it's okay to have questions. I would never tell people not to ask questions and know what the hell is going on.
right.
But you have people that are just like, in that vein, I don't really identify with that. And in that same vein, you've got Black people. It's surprising to some, but they're like, I don't want to watch Black people because it's going to be the same story every time. And I'm not going to accuse anyone of doing people to people that have become that way, that every time they turn on some Black cinema or a Black movie or go to a Black play, it's the same old beat. But there are people that should be held accountable for that. They should never be near a camera again. That said, I know there are people for that same reason have never watched a 50 Cent production or watched him in a movie at all. Like to know that he is like in the club where most of America was introduced to him. Like that's not really this is a businessman and a business man.
And a good
okay.
one. And a good one.
But there are people that just for one reason or another, just like, well, I just refuse. Like, and that refusal, I'm not going to argue with your refusal, which is usually just based on feeling. Maybe you should eat some pizza and see if you feel different. I don't know. For that case, I know that some people just haven't seen it. But Curtis Jackson III announced his that Netflix is moving forward with a docuseries that he's put together that over the last over decades. I'm not going to say the last 2 decades because he didn't say that. He said over decades. And this docuseries comes as the embattled mogul Sean Combs had received notice of his 11th lawsuit today.
Right. 11 is crazy.
There's not enough time in the world for us to discuss what's going on with Sean Combs. That's a dark, dark place.
It
and
is.
whether you go to the dark corners of the internet,
Yeah.
or probably the lightest corners, they are discussing it. So you
Yeah.
don't need me to go there or give you an opinion on what happened.
No. Not on Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, as they wrote in the indictment.
AKA Love.
They wrote
AKA
all his
Love.
names, all of them. I'm going to watch. Let me be very clear. I'm going to
and that's
watch.
where I don't watch. For those of you that ultimately refuse,
I'm gonna watch.
You're not gonna like the reporting that comes out of it because you refuse, but that's on you. Because if you think you're gonna be informed, you are. He hasn't been sitting on this for 2 decades for it to just all of a sudden just be something he threw together. Now, Tubi has thrown things together. Like 2 days after he was indicted the first time, they got something up. Like, I don't have to tell you that's trash. You just like to watch trash, and that's fine. You know there's no substance there. You just everything. But also, if you're not really informed or you don't keep up with either hip-hop culture, entertainment news, if you don't find yourself in those spaces, then I get it. And I retract my Tubi judgment. I'm watching this, okay? It's gonna be good. And docuseries, what I know is that docuseries is just the beginning.
Yeah.
This man has just produced. We're headed into the 3rd episode of BMF, which is the story of the Black Mafia family. And one of them is still in jail. He is still in prison. Executive producing a show that was created by Curtis Jackson III from prison. So post docuseries, when there is Bad Boy running concurrently with Power whatever volume, maybe he'll just call it Boy. He might be petty and call it Love. We don't know what it's gonna be called.
God.
He's gonna do it.
Boy is a bit much. I'm not saying I would put it past him. I'm just saying that's a bit much.
I saw an analysis today. It's not appropriate for this forum.
Oh my.
I did save it to watch later, but it basically said this. I'll let y'all say this for the last couple of weeks. Hee ha ha about the baby oil. But that was not baby oil, y'all. Those were drugs. Now, I'm just going to stop right there because for some people, you're like, what? I'm not going further. I'm going to go back to what I was saying. Boy is not too far. It's not.
I'm going to watch.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
Because that's all I've got on that.
For what?
But I even though I'm not a huge reality TV watcher per se or anything like that, I'm very specific about the reality TV that I will watch, like a Big Brother or something like that. But I'm going to watch this. I'm gonna have to, in part because I respect the work and the production. Now, is he a perfect person? Absolutely not. He can be raggedy on occasion.
He's a trash person.
I was trying to be nice. He's garbage. And also the art that he has created with the Power Universe and BMF is bar none. And I will watch any of that any day over any new series that Tyler Perry comes up with. I was about to say something. Um, and he
No
is about to
comment.
come out with a new series. I'm absolutely going to watch this over Tyler Perry's new Netflix series. Period. That's that on that.
No comment.
Uh,
I'll be watching.
the
This
end.
is in the words of one of my favorite broadcasters. This is must see TV.
Yes. Yes.
It
I
just
agree.
is. Just is.
Yes.
And if you don't believe me, just watch. That's for you old heads.
Yeah.
The thing about the what he has a unique ability because if you look at it historically for our people and the people that are like, oh, I'm not gonna watch this, are likely descendants of people who are like, oh no, we're not gonna have cable. And then when we got cable, it's basic. But there was a group of black people in the 90s that HBO had in a chokehold because of The Wire. So when the
Yeah.
writing speaks to a community and then it brings not just a feeling of understanding, you feel seen,
Yes.
and it's relatable.
Yes.
Part of the reason why he could create the universe is because it's relatable. And
Yeah.
then it's off the air and you're thinking to yourself like it's not that far off from life. BMF, it goes back and it's nostalgia from the 90s, and it's like if you know anything about the Midwest, everything about the 90s in Detroit is just how life was.
It's very accurate. And then
So it just
goes into Atlanta. So it's just accurate. And that's all there is on that. I'm a watch.
so I expect the docuseries to be nothing but spectacular.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be watching. Speaking of spectacular, very honorable, not very honorable, but honorable mention. Kudos to Geeks and Nerds for Harris, who raised $400,000, like, and had Wonder
Geek
Woman
and
speaking.
nerd.
Hello, proud one. I don't know how I missed the memo. Like, do I need
I
to
didn't
renew my
know.
membership?
I saw it pop up as I was about to get in the shower, so I can't join. And I was listen. I know sometimes you just feel like you need to be a part of everything, and that's fine. I'm not gonna knock that type of people. That if you need that, I
Right.
don't think you have to be a part of every coalition. I know
I
we live
agree.
in the world. We live in the lifetime of identity. It's not just identity politics; it's identity culture. So
Yeah.
I've heard
Yeah.
about abrosexual,
I'm sorry. Oh, what?
like abrosexual, like, and I feel like there's just a new one every day. So it's just like it has nothing to do with the acceptance. This is all about identity now because some of these things do mean the same thing, or we're just kind of making it up. Abrosexual is one or more changes in sexuality or sexual identity. An abrosexual person may at times be pansexual, but at other times they may be heterosexual or asexual. Their sexual orientation is in flux. People who are pansexual are attracted to all people, no matter their gender or sexuality. Abrosexual people are attracted to certain types of people at certain times, or no attraction to people at all. I don't know why that needs a definition. I Again, not knocking it. I'm not judging it. I don't know. So no, I don't need the tears. This is how I identify. I'm fine with it. I don't know what it means. To me, then just be bi. Or just say don't. Or say you're abrosexual. Say
So kudos to the geeks and nerds for Harris on raising
thank you for bringing us
$400,000.
back.
Yeah, because I have nothing for that. I recognize that I said they had Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman is putting this on because the email address is actually press@lindacarter.com. So for anyone who was born probably after 95 or 96, I don't know. I was talking about the original Wonder Woman. That's who we were referring to, not Gal Gadot. We are talking about Linda Carter, original Wonder Woman. I was about to say bad bitch, but original Wonder Woman. Who
I was so shocked because
started this.
like I saw it come up. I didn't stay for the entire thing, but I did stay for the intro. And when Linda popped up, I'm like, Wonder Woman? Wonder Woman? And
Judging from the website, she's responsible for it.
and it was a joy for her to welcome geeks
yeah.
and nerds.
It says this movement uses the tactics of fan activism to welcome America's geeks, nerds, and the Comic-Con crowd into the Harris Waltz campaign.
I
And
love
you
it.
know what? I love that. I love everything about that. So kudos to y'all for raising $400,000 for Harris Waltz campaign. Thank you for your efforts, and let us know when the next meeting is. I wouldn't mind hearing from Wonder Woman.
Okay. Not
Just
at
saying.
all.
Just saying.
I mean,
Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying it's been quite the day.
It has. It has. And I know you and I spoke earlier, and we both were trying to wrap our heads around the last 24 hours. And I just want to say that this country, I just saw something right before we came on that said with the 5 executions happening in the United States, this is the biggest week of capital punishment in the United States. I think it said in over a decade. There was one on Friday. There was one on Monday. There was one last night. And there are 2 scheduled for tomorrow. The execution that occurred last night was nothing short of a modern day lynching. And we said this on headlines yesterday. It just wasn't anything short of a modern day lynching. And I'm going to try to get through this without crying. I have been trying. I know you have been trying. We all have been struggling to just find the words today because the state of Missouri is responsible for the murder of an innocent man. And there's just no other way to put that. There's just
in every way.
No other way to put that. The Governor Mike Parsons, the Attorney General, co-conspired to murder Marcellus Khaliifah Williams last night at 6 p.m. Central in the state of Missouri. And It was a state-sanctioned murder. And to have over 1 million signed petitions delivered to his office, hand-delivered to his office, never mind the countless signatures and faith leaders and community leaders and activists and journalists and news folks and media influencers and all of these folks, Innocence Project, different organizations, Flock, the organization that I'm a part of, all vying to have this man's life spared, only to have a state-sanctioned murder still occur, is so disgusting to me and so disheartening. And it's very hard to want to keep going and continue to fight this fight. But then we have to turn around and potentially mourn the loss of another person tomorrow. Um, Emmanuel Littlejohn is scheduled to be executed tomorrow at 10 a.m. He had one stay previously. He had a co-defendant. They were tried separately. The other defendant was found to be guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In Emmanuel Littlejohn's case, the jury did not hear, and this is a case that was tried in the murder occurred in 1992. He was tried in 1994. The jury was not aware of the sentencing of his defendant, and they were confused about the instructions for the sentencing of Marcellus. And the prosecutors came to the case, Marcellus, excuse me, Emmanuel Littlejohn, Mr. Littlejohn. And the prosecutors came to the case insisting that he was the gunman who killed Kenneth Mayers, who died during the commission of a robbery. Mr. Littlejohn has admitted to being there for the robbery and participating in the robbery, but he did not pull the trigger. He did not kill Mr. Mayers. And that has been proven to an extent. And the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board actually recommended commutation for Mr. Littlejohn in a 3-2 vote.
Do we know statistically how often those recommendations are actually considered?
Given? So in the last, I think it's 5 years, they have recommended a stay 4 times. The governor, I'm looking for my notes. The governor has only stayed 1 execution, and that was Julius Jones. And I remember when Julius Jones' execution was stayed, I cried. I cried because Julius Jones is a whole other case. I have since become well acquainted and consider his sister to be one of my sisters. And so that case, Julius Jones' case is near and dear to me. But Julius Jones is the only execution that has been stayed in the state of Oklahoma during the current governor's tenure. So we don't know if he's going to be saved in the last hours. Again, he's scheduled for 10 a.m. tomorrow. But I think it would be a terrible miscarriage of justice. Another one. He also was resentenced in 2000. I think it was 2000, 2002, something like that. But once again, the jury had questions about the instructions on the death penalty versus life without parole. They wanted to know if he could be resentenced later and if his sentence would be reduced and he would be eligible for parole. And instead of answering the question, the judge just sent back a response saying, just defer to the instructions that you were given. And so they, again, resentenced him and sentenced him to the death penalty again. I did find the numbers. The board recommended clemency in only 4 other situations since executions resumed in Oklahoma 3 years ago. Executions did, there were a lot of moratoriums on executions during the pandemic for multiple reasons. But then even after the pandemic began to wane, the executions were slowed down because some pharmaceutical companies decided to stop providing the drugs that are necessary for lethal injections. So, for example, one of the recent executions that occurred, the drugs were not available for them to do the usual 3-drug cocktail that is done for lethal injection. So they switched to pentobarbital, a 1-shot cocktail. So
the United States has been botching these attempts.
Yes.
And the millions spent on trying to perfect a death tactic is just insane to me.
Literally. There have been some executions that have had to be canceled or postponed because they tried to kill them and it didn't work. And so now you have someone who is suffering unimaginable, inhumane torture and pain. And again, we still have some who are innocent. They're going through this and they're innocent. But because of stubborn officials like the Missouri governor Parsons and the attorney general who just insist on this, and on top of that, the U.S. Supreme Court also could have opted to stay Marcellus Williams' execution, and they opted not to at the last hour as well. So Governor Stitt has only like I said, Governor Stitt has only granted clemency once, and that was in 2021 to Julius Jones, who literally was hours away from being executed. And the fight still continues even with him because, again, that's a whole other case, and we're trying to get him out. But if we execute Emmanuel Littlejohn tomorrow, I think it's another miscarriage of justice because, again, his defendant, who has been proven to actually be the one who shot the weapon that killed Mr. Mayers, he got life without parole. And so why should Mr. Littlejohn be sentenced to death for something that his co-defendant wasn't even sentenced to death for? And the death penalty is a very rare punishment that's given for murder that's committed during the commission of a robbery. Death penalty for robbery murder is not usual. It's a very unusual and thought to be somewhat of an extreme punishment for robbery murder cases. So hopefully.
So what happens? Because
we'll see.
With the Marcellus Williams case, one of the deflection points that the governor's office was using was that this sentence has never been overturned by a jury, and this was actually the sentence from the jury. Now, in this case, do we know if the sentence was from the jury or from the judge? Not that it matters this close, but I know that may be a outstanding question. And in those cases, because it is rare but we know about the disparities in sentencing, and this is not Emmanuel Littlejohn is not an anomaly here, right? I can go through a litany of crimes where you've had a mixed race defendants, and the white person is on probation and the black person has life in prison.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was a jury. So the jurors involved in both the 1994 trial and the 2000 trial, it was the sentencing portion that they were confused about. So the jury got the instructions they were told he could either get life in prison without parole or the death penalty were the two primary options that the jury had to choose between during the sentencing phase of the trial. And both the 1994 and the 2000 trial juries were confused about the instructions and ended up sentencing him to death because they believed that they essentially didn't want him to get resentenced later and be eligible for parole. But now he's had over 2 decades
That's an interesting way to play with someone's life, but okay.
Agreed, but we're talking 1994 and 2000. Now, had he been tried,
and because we are talking that, I want people to know that like this stuff is not
different. This is 24 years.
It wasn't that long ago, but it also wasn't that long ago.
Exactly. If he had been tried today, he probably would have different circumstances. But this is 1994, and then again in 2000, our world looked different 24 years ago. It definitely looked different in 1994. That's 30 years ago, which sounds crazy, but this is a 52-year-old man. He was under 20 at the time, I believe, at the time of the murder. So at the time of the robbery murder. And so we could have a whole other conversation about juveniles being tried as adults and then becoming lifers. A lifer is, I know you know this, but for those listening, a lifer is someone who gets sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole as a juvenile, if they're 16, 17, 18, or anything like that. And they get tried as an adult, they can become a lifer. I just wholeheartedly disagree with the way in which that is done, for multiple reasons. Now, does that mean that there are not some who need to be in facilities? There's no rehabilitation possible, yes, which is a whole other conversation. But by and large, many people who are on death row, who are incarcerated lifers, they are fully capable of rehabilitation. They have been rehabilitated. They're model uh, uh, model people in prison. And I'm not going to get into the capitalism and the gerrymandering and everything that happens with prison populations, but this is a business. And I just can't stress that enough. These prisons get paid per head that's in these prisons. They get paid for the folks who are on death row. It costs quite a bit of money to have someone on death row in the state. And so, then there are pharmaceutical companies who still are willing to provide drugs for lethal injections. And I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it every time we talk about this. The Trump administration, before they left office, reintroduced gas chamber using nitrogen gas, the electric chair, and the firing squad. It is 2024. And so even if we want to take off the table the conversation point of we don't get to take a life for someone who takes a life, that's a whole other conversation, and that we can debate that, all day, every day. At the end of the day, we continue to see innocent people be put in prison for life. And then after spending 20, 30, 40 years in prison, they're like, oh yeah, we tested new DNA and it wasn't you after all. Our bad. Here's a couple $1 million.
States like Missouri will offer no restitution.
No restitution. But
sorry, we locked you up for all this time. I know you have
right.
no skills. You know nothing about the world, but you now have to leave.
You now have to leave, and hopefully, no recidivism is happening. Recidivism is when they return.
You're better off if you have to go to a halfway house, but you're not eligible for that because you went all the way, actually. So
Exactly. So it's a business. There are prisons and detention centers that are literally publicly traded entities, or are run by publicly traded entities. So this is a business, but these are people's lives. And when you put someone on death row, when you execute someone, when they are innocent, we cannot bring them back. We can never bring Marcellus Khaliifah Williams back. And I just know that the real killer will be found years from now. But we can't bring him back. We can't give him back to his family. We can't give Mr. Littlejohn back to his family, to his he has a child. I think he's a grandfather at this point. We can't give Marcellus Williams Jr. back his father. We cannot give Mr. Littlejohn back to his family if we execute him tomorrow at 10 a.m. And so I hope that Governor Stitt, has a wake of consciousness overnight and decides to, for the second time during his tenure, allow a stay for the execution. But this practice in this country, we are by and large, we have the most executions in the world. Other countries are not doing this. They are finding different ways of rehabilitation. They are training their law enforcement differently. They are training their correctional officers differently and much longer times. So the prison industrial complex in this country is far more punitive than it should be, and far more punitive, damaging, and deadly than it is in other developed countries. So I'm praying for Mr. Littlejohn. I'm praying that the governor of Oklahoma has a struggle of consciousness overnight and decides to say the execution. And I'm absolutely praying for the family of Marcellus Khaliifah Williams.
Absolutely.
That's all I have.
A very rough conversation, but a very real conversation, a very real problem in this country, a very odd place for such an allegedly civilized country to remain and
Right.
to willingly go back to.
Right.
So I have to say this because the same man that said they're eating the dogs and the cats reintroduced things like the gas chamber and the firing squad. Like,
Right.
what is this? Deuteronomy? What is going on?
Okay.
What's
They're
going
gonna be
on?
they're gonna stone people next.
I want better for us.
Yeah.
And that unfortunately that takes work.
Yeah. Marcellus Khaliifah Williams' final words were, "All praise be to Allah in everything." And I'm gonna hold that dear to me for a long time. That those were his final words.
He will be missed.
Yeah.
And to follow our coverage on these situations, visit our website, our sister website, blackalerts.com, that has tons of information on these cases, more information, and we'll continue to put that information out there. If this is your first time watching Headlines, welcome. We're back tomorrow with the latest stories happening in our community and yours. That's going to do it for us. We've got a lot to do to go tomorrow, and to I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. We have a lot. We got through a lot today, and tomorrow. This is what happens with live things. You know, you just go with it.
Right.
Tomorrow we'll do all of the things again, right? So subscribe to our page, share this content, and follow our coverage. Your support means the world.
Yes, it does.
And now that's all for me.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, a topic you want us to hit, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are Black Alerts, BLK Alerts on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram. Send us a DM. We would love to hear from you, or you can comment on any of our videos. We do check the comments, and we will get back to you. But thank you for tuning in to Black Headlines Primetime. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights and updates. I am Tiffany Linnell. You can reach me at Tiff Linnell on Threads or Instagram, and at Tiffany Linnell on TikTok. Alex, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm at Alex Unmuted. If you type it in and I pop up, try
it. That's going to do it for us until next time. Stay informed and stay empowered. Good night.
Absolutely. Good night.